Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Early School Leaver Transition Program Bidders Conference. My name is Brittany Boston, and I am with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support, and I will be on as the facilitator for today's meeting. So a few housekeeping items before I hand it over to ICCB. As a participant, you are currently in listen-only mode, but we do want to hear your questions, comments, feedback, and there are two ways in which you could share that with us. If you have a working microphone and you're confident that it is working, you can use the raise hands feature, and I will be happy to unmute you so you can communicate that way. Or depending on the device that you are joining us with, you either have a questions or a chat box, and you can type in any comments or questions you have in that box throughout today's presentation. I do also want to share that this is being recorded, as well as the Bidders Conference we had on Monday. And so the recordings for both of these meetings will be posted on the Early School Leaver website and shared out by ICCB. And we will also be sharing the slides from today's meeting as well. So with that, I will hand it over to Angela Gerberding from ICCB.
Thanks, Brittany. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having better weather than we are here in Springfield. It's rainy and windy, but I think that's pretty much across the state right now. So let's go ahead and get started with the ESLTP Bidders Conference meeting. Okay, so the goal for today is really to share information about the Early School Leaver Transition Program for the FY22 grant application and process. If after this meeting you still have questions, first I would recommend you read the Nofo, and then after that read the FAQ. Both of those are on the ICCB website, which is right here. We will be adding to that FAQ as we go. If you reach out to someone at ICCB, we're going to tell you first ask, have you read the Nofo and have you read the FAQ? So those are the two places that I would start before you even really reach out to one of us. So let's start with the grant management system, Amplifund. It's a new grant management system that all of the state of Illinois is using for grants. So the ESLTP grant is the pilot for ICCB in this system. So we are trying to get as much information as we can out, shared, all of that is there. But how to access the website is here. In order to get access to Amplifund, you have to have credentials into the GATA system. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. While waiting to get those credentials, all of the parts and pieces of the grant are posted on the ICCB website here. The reason we did that is so if it takes you a day or two or a week, depending on what your processes are for getting you access, you can still have those documents to look at and use to start collecting all the information that you're going to need to put into Amplifund. Once you have your credentials and you're in, if you need help within Amplifund, accessing the application, particularly you can email their customer service team with this email right here. Now, with the GATA system, we know that institutions are going to have different processes. Some are going to say, yep, here it is, no problem. Others are going to have a lot more restrictions on what individuals within their institution can access. But within GATA, there are various limitations. So while I have access to the GATA system for ESLTP purposes and the IET grant that I oversee, I do not have access to the CTE Perkins grant or the Adult Ed Family Literacy grant. I don't have access to everything. So as you are added, if it helps to calm some of your institutional concerns, they grant you the permissions only up to the level that you need. So they don't have to hand you the keys to the castle, as I've heard the reference made. They can't hand you one single key at a time to access what you need. But you will have to have access, at least in part, to the GATA system in order to get into Amplifund to complete this application. With all of that being said, everything must be submitted in Amplifund. ICCB cannot accept any attachments or addendums, anything like that outside of Amplifund. So if you're having issues uploading a piece that's required, whether it's a budget, whether it's part of the narrative, it's staff contact names, whatever it is, you're going to need to email the support team email here in Amplifund, because you can't contact myself or Jane Black and say, hey, can I just email it to you? Because our answer is going to be no, it must all be submitted via Amplifund. The deadline to submit, the due date, is 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, April 30th, 2021. Because this is the system that has been set up, there will be no late submissions allowed. You cannot get a hold of us at 4:45 that Friday afternoon and say, oh, I haven't got it submitted yet. Can I wait and send it Monday? No, it's a done deal. At 12 p.m. 12 a.m. May 1st, it's closed, it's done, no longer admissible to submit anything. So plan early, submit early, work on it early. Do not, please, please, please do not wait till 11:30 to submit. We all have college students that have done that, but please don't be one of them. So plan early, set it early, make sure everything's lined up. Once you're in, a couple of things when you're filling out the application within Amplifund, there is a help button. They have green squares. It's a help button. It's at the top of most of the pages. You can also click on that. It offers various information on different explanations about different parts and pieces of the application, but it also includes a user guide for Amplifund. So if you get in and you're still not sure what you're doing, or you're somebody who feels like you do much better with the paper version of everything, you can go in and get that user guide. I think I heard it was about 75 pages, and read through it, do what you need to do with it. But there's a user guide for that within the help button. There's also at the bottom of each page, as you go in, it's set up similar to many other online application processes. There's different circles across the top, and as it's done, it's checked off, and you have to have them all checked off before you get to the end, all that sort of thing. But at the bottom of each of those sections, there is a button that says Mark as Complete. And each of those pages must be marked as complete in order to be able to submit. So if you get to the very end and you try to hit submit and something comes up that says this page is not marked as submit, you'll get a list of what's missing. Go back to that page, make sure it's complete, and hit the submit button, or not the submit, the mark as complete button. At the bottom of each page, also each of those sections, there is a save and a save and continue button. The save and continue button moves you automatically to the next section. There's a save button because you can get in and out of this. This is not something that you have to have all of your documents together and you have to sit down at one time and submit everything. You can go in and submit 2 sections, get out, go collect some more information, submit 2 more sections, not submit, add 2 more sections of information. So the save button by itself just saves it, and then you'd have to, automatically move where you need to go next. The save and continue saves everything and moves you to the next section. In addition to that, at the very end, you've got all of your marks as completes done, you've got everything in, you've got everything completed. There are asterisks next to sections and pieces and questions that are required. When you hit the save and continue, or the mark is complete, both of those will flag red. If there's a section, if you're missing a date that you didn't fill in, or you're missing a section, it'll flag those, and it will not let you mark it as complete or save and continue. It will let you save, but not the save and continue. When you get everything completed, everything is done, no more red flags, everything looks great. When you get to the end and there's a submission circle at the top, and you get into that section, you have two tabs. You have a review button and you have a submit button. If everything is not ready to go, the submit button is gray and it will not work. Once that submit button turns green, you're good to go. One of the suggestions is to hit the review button, because the review button pulls everything up that you've turned in, and then you can print that and you'll have a paper copy of everything that you have submitted. And then you can hit the submit tab button and it all goes through. And so that's where, but that again, that submit is only an option after all of those circles at the top have check marks in them. The last thing about the notes for the application, and then Amy, I can see the, not Amy, sorry Brittany, I know you're Brittany. I can see the little chat bar flashing. So we'll go to whatever's in the chat when I'm done with the screen. Like I said, you can get out and in, plug in information, get out, go get some more, come back in. When you're logging back in, you would log into Amplifund like you normally would. There's going to be an ICCB logo up in the top left. When you click on that logo, that's going to take you directly to any grants that you've got going. So if you have if you're working on a Perkins grant, or you're working on this ESLTP grant, or you're working on, whatever other grants from ICCB may be listed, your list should pull up because it's got your login information via ICCB. So you click on the link to the grant that you're wanting to work on, ESLTP, and then you're right back into it and you continue adding and uploading information. So, Brittany, is there anything in the chat?
No, so that was actually me, but I'll go ahead and let everyone know the handouts, I went ahead and put them in, or the slides, I put them in the handouts portion of your little GoToWebinar toolbar. So you can download those so you have access to all of the links that Angela is sharing. And we will also upload those onto the website as well. So you'll hopefully be able to find them in multiple places in case you misplaced them.
Cool, thank you, Brittany. All right, so into the Nofo, the Notice of Official Funding Opportunity, all of those fabulous fun details. The maximum amount of funding is $60,000 per institution. Again, if you plug in 75,000 or you plug in a budget numbers of 75,000, it's going to show up as red and say, nope, can't do it because we have it set up that 60 is max. The grant period is July 1 of 21 through June 30 of 2022. Continuation will be July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2024. So while it's kind of considered a 3-year grant, it's right now we're doing for 1 grant year and then the other 2 will be continuation. Again, there's a deadline. Guess what? We want you to make sure you know when the deadline is. Can't accept anything after the deadline. I've said that all. Please submit it on time. It'll make everyone's life much easier. Eligible applicants. So what do you all have to be able to do? You need to be able to document the need to serve the individuals in the community most in need of adult ed and literacy services. You also need to make sure there's career pathway services or the applicants are in need of career pathway services, or possibly those with low literacy skills and those that are English language learners. You have to be able to demonstrate the ability to serve eligible individuals with disabilities, and you have to be able to demonstrate past effectiveness in improving literacy skills. The levels of performance include maintaining continuous enrollment of at least 50 active students, providing 200 minutes per week of classroom instruction, and 15 hours overall throughout the year of work-based learner, that's per semester, I misspoke. 15 hours of work-based learning per semester. So these are the students that you have to serve. out-of-school youth ages 16 to 24 who their reading score is at or above 8.0 grade level and their math score is at or above a 6.0 grade level. I know in part of the Nofo, I believe that is within the Amplifund system, we had a typing error and they both said they had to be 8.0. That is not correct. The reading is 8.0, the math is 6.0, but they do have to have both of those, not just a reading or just a math. They need to have both of those at or above these two levels. Additionally, the participants, the students, must also be willing to complete a secondary level of education. So whether that's a high school diploma, it's a GED, it's whatever HSE it is. They participate in school and work-based learning related to a career choice. So it's not just a willy-nilly whatever they want. And they also have to be willing to transition to post-secondary education and or employment. We know some of them want to work, some of them want to go on to college. They have to be willing to do one or the other. So the goals of this project within the adult ed division is to provide alignment with the skills of industry within the state or your region. And we have region because we know places like John A. Logan are going to be different than the needs at Kaskaskia College or Malcolm X in Chicago. So we know the region plays into this. Assistance to students in the completion of an HSE exam or an alternative high school credit towards graduation. Exposure to workforce employability skills, which includes career awareness, exploration, and development, as defined by the Illinois Essential Employability Skills Framework. If you're not familiar with that, I'm going to ask Brittany to put the link to that in the chat so you can review that if you need to. Assistance with preparation for employment through work-based learning opportunities. So it's not just that you're teaching them what they need to know to get into a job, but there's also work-based learning experience that goes with it so they can see where the rubber meets the road on these things. Assistance with transition to post-secondary CTE programs within one of the 16 career clusters, and specifically those identified as high growth sector needs, again, within your geographic area. And that assistance to transition, we know that many of our students are in need of that help. So whether that's figuring out where advising is, getting them the advising, it's help with the FAFSA form, all of those different parts and pieces. That's part of the goal, is to help the students get through that process. Assistance in counseling to support the achievement of educational and career goals. And then of course to ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion. Big push this year, but it's a good push. Requirements of each of the applicants. You need to maintain a minimum of 50 participants and coordinate participation in adult education instruction. Collaborate with internal and external partners for program planning and transitioning of participants. So just like I mentioned, if you're working with your advising office or your financial aid office, those are internal partners, but external partners may be your work-based learning. They may be external funders, your Title I partner programs to help with student support, with transportation, or whatever else. So there's lots of partnerships that need to be included with this. Career awareness and development instruction is what we refer to as CADI because we love our acronyms. This is where that 200 minutes per week of classroom and or individual instruction is required for all participants. And that 100% means all participants. The work-based learning, as I said, is 15 hours of work-based experience per semester is required. And that could be in the form of an apprenticeship, a pre-apprenticeship, an internship, on-the-job training, job shadowing. There's lots of different ways that work experience can happen, but it is required, and it does need to be a minimum of 15 hours per semester. And then track local data in Veda. If you are a new program, we will help you get training and figure out what Veda is and how to get access. It is the data tracking system that is used for the ESLTP grant. And as being fairly new to this ESLTP information, I am also learning it, but Brittany, I've heard rumors, is a whiz at Veda, so we'll use her to help us with that if we need to. Once everything is turned in on time and complete and wonderful, then it goes into the application reviewing process. They are going to be reviewed using a merit-based process, and a rubric is used to assess the extent to which the applicant meets each of these areas. Program need, applicant capacity and past effectiveness, program design, student recruitment, enrollment and retention, career awareness and development instruction, transition services, support services, and the work-based learning and work-based learning site. And the points right there are attached to each one of those areas, so you can see where each of those fall. But that's the rubric base that we will use to score all of these. Once all the scoring is done, then an award will be made pursuant to a written determination based on the evaluation criteria set forth in all of this. A NOSA, which is the Notice of State Award, will be issued to all of the finalists that have successfully completed the grant award requirements. And then based on the NOSA, the finalist then makes the decision to accept or reject that grant award. Hold on, I gotta grab a drink. Okay. Upon acceptance of the grant award, announcement of the grant award will be published by ICCB to grants.illinois.gov. And then a written notice of denial if your program is, if you say we're only serving 25 students, we're only doing 100 hours of instruction a week, and we're only doing 8 hours of work-based instruction, there's probably going to be an issue with that. If you are denied, that will be a written notice of denial will be sent to each of the applicants that do not receive an award. Award administration information. Upon award and approval of a finalized post-allocation budget, ICCB will voucher the award monies in regular intervals. A negotiated and finalized proposal will be returned to the applicant with an authorized signature affixed to the funding agreement, and that will constitute as the approved agreement with us at ICCB. Successful applicants will be required to attend all ESLTP professional development offered. ESLTP coordinators will be required to attend program meetings as mandated by the ICCB. All programs must comply with all federal and state labor and wage laws. The placement of students in work-based learning, that's WBL, the work-based learning, cannot result in the displacement of other workers who ordinarily perform such work. And grantees must maintain the following records related to the ESLTP. This is all, so proof of age certificate as required by law, records of the follow-up of students who have completed or left the program. So how are you staying with them? How are you keeping in contact with them? Class records of career awareness and development instruction. Again, that's CADI. So class records for that. And then the fiscal records supporting any claim for reimbursement, including vouchers indicating payment of bills or expenses incurred under the term of any funding agreement. So those are the types of records that grantees need to maintain. On to the budget. This is the fun one that sometimes creates. Before we get into the budget, I'm not seeing any questions in chat. Brittany, are you?
No, I'm not seeing any questions at this moment.
Okay, then I will continue forward. In the budget, cost sharing or matching is required at a minimum of 25% of either cash or in kind. Indirect costs are allowed. General administration cannot exceed 5% of the total allocation. Okay, allowable activities, personnel. So Let me read this and then clarify it. So the cost of adult education or high school completion instruction is not an allowable activity and should be coordinated with the AEL administrator. So what that means, so personnel, so your grant staff, your coordinator, those personnel, that personnel can be paid for with this budget. What cannot be paid for is the instructor for the adult ed instruction, because you should be coordinating with an adult ed program, and that program should be paying that instructor out of their budget for that instruction. Jane, did I get that all straight that time?
To my knowledge.
Okay. So if you can pay the coordinator who may do a little bit of instruction, but the majority, the instruction should be coming from the adult ed grant. That's why you want to work with an adult ed program to make sure that they're covering the cost of the instruction, but the ESLTP grant can cover the cost of the coordinators or whatever other personnel goes into the ESLTP grant specifically. The next one, fringe, is supposed to be fringe benefits. Sorry, I forgot a word on there. Not sure how that happened. Travel and professional development is allowable. Equipment is allowable. Supplies and materials allowable. Contractual services allowable. General administration, as I mentioned above, cannot exceed 5% of the total grant. Budget modifications. So once the budget you submit and everything is finalized and approved and good, if you decide, last year, because of COVID, there were a few people that had to do some budget modifications because what they thought they were going to be able to do, they weren't able to do because of restrictions. So those budget modifications follow the same rule that if the budget line amount changes more than 10% or more than $1,000, whichever is higher, then a budget modification is required. For those, you're going to contact Jane Black. There's your email. Jane is still with us. She's just working on the compliance and the budget side of it, which is fabulous and wonderful for me. No subgranting is allowed. So there's your budget page. Budget information. Reporting responsibilities. Funded programs will utilize the virtual ESLTP data application, which is VEDA, to record or document collected participant data, track progress, and submit required quarterly and annual reports. The ESLTP students should correspondingly be identified in the adult education data and information system, which we know as DAISY, if applicable. So those classes that you're having the adult ed program pay for instruction, those students should be listed in DAISY in those classes under the adult ed grant. They should also be in VEDA because they are also they're also serving as participants in the ESLTP grant. So they're also getting work-based learning. They're also getting their CADI experience or training. So all of that, they may end up in both, and that's okay. Reporting schedule. Quarterly expenditure and performance reporting will use the following schedule. And these are pretty common dates with everything that lines up with ICCB. So quarter one is July 1 through September 30th of 2021, and that due date is going to be 30 days later on October 30th. Quarter two is October 1 through December 31, 2021, and that's due 30 days later in 2022. Quarter three is January 1 through March 31, 2022, and that report is due April 30th of 2022. Quarter four is April 1 through June 30th, 2022, and that report is due July 30th, 2022. So that would be the end of your performance reporting. But there is a final expenditure report that is due August 30th, 2022 that wraps up everything totally and completely. So there's your reporting schedule. Again, these are pretty common dates for ICCB type of grants. So your contacts at ICCB, That first one is me, Angela Gerberding, Associate Director for Integrated Career Programs. There's my phone number and my email. Jane Black, like I said, is still with us, Associate Director for Compliance, her phone number and her email. Now, I can tell you that right now, Jane and I are both still working from home 100% of the time. So those phone numbers ring in an office that we are not in, and we try to check them, but we don't check them as often. So to get an answer, your quickest route to us is going to be via email. And then if we need a phone call, we can set that up, or a Zoom or WebEx, whatever meeting we need to set up. We're happy to do that. But we'll be doing that on our cell phones. So start with an email, and then we can go from there. There is an ESLTP grant FAQ that we've already started, a frequently asked questions page, that can be found on the website right here. This is the actual PDF of that FAQ so far. As questions come in, more questions will be added to this document. So if you check it today, but a question comes up April 1st, there may be more questions that have been added since then, until then. So go in and take a look at that again. The other thing within Amplifund, there is a process explained of how FAQs, how you can ask questions. Jane, can you explain that process to them? Because my brain has blanked on that.
It's really simple. Basically, as explained in Amplifund, simply send an email directly to me, and in the title of your email, preface it as FY22 ESLTP question. You know, so when I go through my 80 emails I get a day, I'll see like, oh, this is an ESLTP grant question. I will immediately know to open that up, pull it aside, get to it immediately, and put that on the FAQ. And as soon as I get a few of those, I will update the FAQ page, not only in Amplifund, but also on the website, on our ICCB website. Keep in mind that there are, just in FAQs, there is technical assistance that you can click the help button for any technical questions, or anything like that. But I would encourage you to actually have the FAQ page with you as you're filling out the grant, because I created this anticipating some of your questions and providing a little bit of detailed instruction of how things need to be done, and especially when it comes to the budgetary issues, because things are a little different than normal. So I've actually provided on this FAQ screenshots. So I would suggest just downloading that either from the FAQ page, either from Amplifund or from our website, just to have with you. But any FAQ questions, send them to me with the title of ESLTP FAQ.
Thank you, Jane. I knew you would explain that much better than I did. Okay, questions?
Well, I am much older than you, so I'll just say, I'll chalk that up to gray hair.
There you go. Experience, that's what it is, experience. So this is a time, if you haven't typed questions in, Brittany, I saw there were a couple, at least one question in chat.
Yeah, we do have some questions, and I apologize if you can hear the blustery weather in the background here. But one of the questions was regarding Amplifund. So is a general notification going out to all ICCB grantees about the use of Amplifund to submit grant applications? And will there be any training materials to get familiar with its use?
This is Kathy. Can I chime in?
Absolutely.
Okay. So Amplifund is the new state grant management system, and as we start rolling this out, we are hearing your comments, questions, and concerns. The Amplifund system has tutorials and resources that are available to help you navigate the system. Where we're seeing the main concern currently is many program administrators do not have GATA access. That tends to be handled within a sponsored project department or a grant management department. So once those internal processes are working, then I think this will be a very streamlined system. So the tutorials are available, and as we roll the grants out in this system, people we're giving them all the support that you need to be able to submit correctly. We are going slow with this. This will be the only adult education grant released in Amplifund this year. Okay, so we want to give people time to get their processes in place. So if you have, does that answer your question, or do you have additional concerns?
So Kathy, is there a specific location that they can access those tutorials and resources?
In the Amplifund system, there is a help button. Sorry, I've had weird internet connections today, so I'm on my phone. So I apologize for the echo. On the Amplifund system, there are help desk tutorials, and there is a live help desk to ask questions and support. You will see once you're in the system, it is a very easy system to navigate. So that is not going to be a problem. They did design it very well. The biggest concern people have right now is the unknown, because you can't get may not be able to get your hands in there right now because you're working on the administrative side of getting your access. So I think once you get your hands in there, you will feel comfortable, and there is a button that has help on it, and we will make sure in the stuff that we post, there are links to the tutorials.
Kathy, I might want to add that on the FAQ page, right up at the top, I do believe we anticipated this question, and I did put any links to like the Zendex help desk for Amplifund or something like that. So on the FAQ page, I did explain that. That's one of the reasons I'm saying download that FAQ page and have it with you. But Kathy, you are correct. Once you actually get into Amplifund and start using it from the applicant end, it is actually fairly easy. It was actually created in a fairly user-friendly manner.
Okay, thank you both so much. And then one more, just of a clarifying question and comment. So this is an open competitive grant process. So if you as an institution can meet those eligibility requirements that Angela laid out and can show a need, you are absolutely invited to apply for the early school leaver grant.
If you're looking for confirmation, Brittany, yes. And even if you're not, yes, that's correct.
Yes, confirmation is always good. And so I don't see any more questions coming in.
This is Kathy. I do want to ask a question of the group. You can either answer this question in the chat feature, or you can raise your hand. And Brittany, I can't see that, so if you could share with me. For the people who are attending this, how many of you currently have a GATA account? I'm not talking about your institution. I'm talking about you specifically. So, or the person writing the grant. So if I can understand what that looks like, that would be very helpful to us.
So Kathy, I am not seeing any hands go up, but there is at least one individual that stated that they do personally have access to their GATA account.
Okay. So also I want to let you know that a normal grant is posted, I think, what, 30 days, Jane? We posted this for 45 days, anticipating that there might be some processes that institutions need to work through. So we gave you an extra 2 weeks to be able to have time to do that. And additionally, For your convenience, as Angela has indicated, we placed all of the documents on the ICCB website so that you can begin working on the grant while you are working on your internal processes. So we are trying to do absolutely everything we can to ease you into this transition for the Amplifund system. You will actually find it very user-friendly, but I know change is hard, so we're trying to do everything we can to give you time, support, and tools.
Absolutely. And go ahead, Angela.
Okay, the other piece that I want to add is if you were not able to attend Monday's bidders conference, which most people would not attend both, they would attend just one. When that recording is up and posted, the questions from the chat will be put onto the FAQ. So Brittany, can you also make sure that these questions are saved, and we'll add them to the FAQ. But you may want to listen to that recording at the end for any explanation of questions other than what we type out. The slides were identical, but sometimes the questions may be slightly different.
And Brittany, if you could make sure you get me the FAQ, any questions that are there, so I can make sure, since I'm doing the FAQ, so I can put them on the FAQ. So any questions that do come in, please forward them to me.
Yes, absolutely. I have you, Angela, and Kathy all on my list. So we did have a couple of more questions coming through that I'll get to, but I did also want to know, I have put a couple of things in the chat. So the Illinois Essential Employability Skills Framework, the link is in there. Please forgive my typo. My fingers don't work as fast as my brain. And then I also linked the FY22 ESLTP Nofo on the ICCB webpage. So the FAQ that we keep referencing, all of the attachments for the grant application, that is where you will find all of that information. And that is also linked in the handouts of the slides from today. So we want to make sure that you have access to all of that information in whatever form is beneficial to you. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Okay, so some of the questions in the chat. The Nofo refers to incorporating ICAP's programming. Is this a requirement? And can you talk about this, please?
Read that question to me one more time. I think I understood it, but I just want to make sure I'm answering it correctly.
Yep, so as far as ICAP's programming, it's mentioned within the notice of funding. And is this requirement, which I'm assuming, is this a requirement for the early school leaver program? And if you could just shed a little light on that.
Kathy, can you field that one?
I'm chiming in here. So the requirement, the absolute goal of the early school leaver program is to ensure that we are creating an environment for the at-risk youth, that 16 to 24-year-olds, to move forward into post-secondary work or training. The vehicle often used to do that is the ICAPS model, where you are integrating adult education, career education, and you're integrating workplace training, and you're integrating all of these pieces. So it lends itself very well to an ICAPS model because essentially we're talking contextualized instruction, workplace learning, transitioning into post-secondary education or the workforce. The specific part of an ICAPS program is there is a credential that is obtained at the end of it. While that's not necessarily a requirement to have a credential at the end of this particular grant, what is required is all of the work-based learning, the transitions into employment, the transitions into post-secondary education, the high school equivalency certificate attainment. Those are the goals that we have. So what I am saying is the ICAPS model lends itself very well to all of these pieces coming together. So you will find probably higher success when you integrate that into your program. But right now, the core areas are CADI, the career development, work-based learning, adult education. Those are the components that are absolutely required. Does that clarify that, or does that jumble it up a little bit more in your head?
They said, yes,
Thank you,
thank you,
Kathy.
that helped. Okay, so one other question came through. Is there an approved ICCB curriculum for the CADI course, or is this a course that the program develops and receives ICCB approval for?
So there are requirements for the CADI instruction, and you would submit a course approval, much like anything else that we do for other programs. When you are developing your courses, you have the technical assistance, not only from Angela Gerberding and from Jane on the ICCB side, but you also have the guidance and onboarding that will happen from Amy Julian's team, because that way we can get you guys up and running. So right now, there is not a set curriculum that you have to use, but there are some requirements that need to go in there, like that would be the employability skills framework and things along those lines. And you're not doing this alone. You will have all the technical assistance necessary to work with you as we develop your courses.
Yes, and Kathy, if I can add, I put in the chat the support webpage that we have for the Early School Leaver program. And in that, there is a tab for resources, and you will find a curriculum guidance, sort of a framework for the Early School Leaver program and CADI. Again, it is just a guide. Those are not elements that are necessarily required, but to kind of get the wheels turning and see you know, what pieces could fit within the Early School Leaver program and that curriculum development.
Thank you, Brittany, for that explanation of additional resources. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any other questions come in, nor am I seeing any hands being raised.
Okay. So I guess the two things that are key in my head right now are, one, making sure you get access, and two, making sure you plan ahead of that final deadline. It is a hard deadline. It will be a brick wall. That's it. That's the deadline. So
I might add, please, whatever you do, do not wait until the week before to decide you want to start entering stuff into Amplifund, because I can guarantee you will find some nuance that you didn't think about, and you will have no reaction time because the deadline is firm. So like I said, plan ahead and just plan for problems. Always plan for problems. So don't wait till the last minute.
Kathy, any final thoughts from you?
No, I want you to, all the programs to know that you're not alone and you're supported during this process. Your questions will be answered and updated on the FAQ system, so make sure you reach out. You're not alone. I know that we've had a lot of change in the last year, so one more thing is probably overwhelming, but please bear with us as we work with you through this. Communicate any concerns you have about the Amplifund system. We need to understand what you're feeling so that we can continue to develop this in a way that meets your needs. And I want to wish you all good luck in this process. We are here to help you.
Okay. So I think, Brittany, do you have any final closing out, housekeeping, anything you need to do?
No, there's no other questions. So thank you, ICCB, for the information and for everyone participating, and all of the resources that we've shared out, the slides, the recordings. We'll get that all uploaded and shared out with the field.
Perfect. And give us a little time. Sometimes that takes a day or two just because we all have meetings as well that we have to attend. So early next week probably will be when those are all available. So while this was scheduled to go to 11, congratulations, you all got an hour back to your day. Have a great day.
Thank you all so much.